This is Algebra 2, Lesson 6.3, adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. This is part 2. We're doing the horizontal method for multiplying polynomials. Again, most of us, just from using the distributive property for the last couple of years in our math classes and stuff, are more comfortable using this. Yesterday we talked about the vertical method, stacking the things on top of each other. This one is a little bit easier for us. Most of us to draw little arrows. Even if we don't draw them on a paper, we'll draw them mentally. What we do here, though, is x times everything there's two terms in the first one, x and -2, and then there's three terms in the second polynomial, 3x squared minus x plus 5. So what you do is x times everything. X times 3x squared, or what they actually have written in right below it is all three of the terms times x minus 2. So I'll do it that way. Most of us don't do it that way, though, but it's just showing you that there's another method. Because remember, you can multiply in any order you want to. So whatever way works for you, again, works. Um, X minus 2, this whole binomial times 3x squared. Again, x minus 2 times negative x, or the minus is here. Again, the same thing. You can multiply in any order you want. And x minus 2 times 5. So just distributing. The reason most of us don't do it this way is because most of us don't like having a set of parentheses with a term behind it like this, because we don't like to go backwards with it. Okay, that's just again out of habits we've created. But it's again, it still works the same way. So when you multiply these by each other, 3x squared times x is going to be 3x to the third power. 3x squared times -2 is -6x squared. So that's those two. X times x, and again the minus is up front. X times x is negative x squared. X times -2 is positive 2x. And again, the reason it says positive 2x right here is because of this negative. And this is, again, a reason why most of us don't like going backwards with it, because it makes it positive 2x there. And then 5 times x is 5x, and 5 times -2 is -10. But once you get to this step, and again, when you go forwards instead of backwards the way they have it here, this positives and negatives aren't as much of a challenge for most of us. Once you get to this step, though, you have to make sure to combine all of the like terms. Remember, like terms, anything that has the same exponent, same variable raised to the same exponent. The good thing about doing it this way is all of the like terms wind up next to each other. You see how x to the second power is here, second power is here, and then x to the first power is here and here. It makes it a little bit easier to combine those. But when we do combine those, -6 and -1 gives you -7x squared, and 2x and 5x gives you positive 7x. The rest of them, 3x cubed and -10, stay the same. Okay? So this is the horizontal method again. And again, this way is not, this is the way most of us prefer to do it. But again, they have this step right here. Looks a little bit confusing just because it's written backwards. So again, on the side or on the back, let's try this one. You don't have to do it exactly like this. Do it the way you feel more comfortable. Let's take about the most comfortable. Let's take about 45 seconds on this one. Okay, what you need to do is take x and 2 and multiply it by everything in the second polynomial. Or you can do it the way we just looked and go 5x squared times x plus 2, 3x times x plus 2, and negative 1 times x plus 2. Both ways work because remember you can multiply in whatever order is most comfortable for you. I'm most comfortable doing it this way, so that's the way I'm going to show you guys. X times 5x squared. Again, 1 times 5, like earlier, is 5. X times x squared, you add 1 and 2 to get x to the third power. Remember, anytime you multiply the same bases, you add exponents. This one right here, x times 3x. Again, 1 times 3 is positive 3. X times x, again, you add exponents to get x squared. And x times negative 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And don't forget about the x. That's multiplying x times all of the three terms. Also do 2 times all three of the terms. 2 times 5x. 2 times 5 is positive 10, and it's not 5x, it's 5x squared, so it's 10x squared. 2 times 3x. 2 times 3 is positive 6x, and 2 times negative 1. Opposite signs is going to be negative. 2 times 1 is 2. At this step, again, look how long our problem got. That's one of the things with these problems that gets people stumped or gets people a little bit frustrated. They get very long, but they get much shorter on the next step. Combine the like terms. The x to the third power is your biggest degree. There's only one x to the third power here, so we can leave that one as 5x to the third power. 3x squared and 10x squared are the same or like terms, x squared. So we can combine 3 and 10 to get a positive 13x squared. And then negative 1x and 6x, opposite signs, even though they both have x to the first power. Negative 1 plus 6 is going to be a positive 5x. And then there's only one constant term at the end, negative 2. We can't put any of this stuff together because they're not like terms. They don't have the same variable raised to the same exponent. Now, this is all fine and good. This is pretty easy for most of us. Again, with the occasional mistake we might make of leaving something off. But what happens when we have to multiply 3 polynomials, or in this case, 3 binomials? What you're going to do with this is you're going to FOIL 2 of them and then treat them just like this one right here. Because the trinomial times a binomial is what you create when you FOIL them. So when you have x plus 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3, notice when you FOIL it, and this is something that you can do mentally a lot of times, when you put x and x together, or the first two terms, x and x, you get x squared. When you put x and negative 1, you get negative x. 2 and x, you get positive 2x. And 2 and negative 1, you get negative 2. Then you just combine your like terms, negative x and positive 2x, and you get positive 1x. So notice x squared, positive 1x, I just said minus 2, is the same thing that's in this trinomial here. Then you treat it just like what we just did. You multiply each of those terms, and they're probably going to do it backwards again if I'd have to guess. They're going to multiply x squared times x minus 3, x times x minus 3, and negative 2 times x minus 3. No, they didn't. So they're just showing you multiple ways to do it. X times each of those things, but it's still backwards in a sense that you have to do it this way. X times this, this, and this. So x times x squared is x to the third, x times x is x squared, and x times negative 2 is negative 2x. That's what we have there. This one here, 3 times x squared is 3x squared, 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 2. Notice it says positive 6 again, and this is where the confusion comes in with the positives and negatives. We're doing it backwards because there's a negative up front. That's why it says positive 6. But at this step, combine your like terms. There's only one x to the third. X squared and negative 3x squared. You're going to put 1 and negative 3 together to get negative 2x squared. Negative 2x and negative 3x, you put negative 2 and negative 3 together to get negative 5x, and then there's only one constant term, positive 6. Again, these problems expand to get very long, and then they condense to get a lot shorter. Easy arithmetic for the most part. A lot of pieces and parts to these problems to make mistakes on if you don't pay attention or if you write sloppy. So try to clean up your writing for this stuff best you can. Slow down. There's no rush with these problems. On the back, one more time, everybody. Let's multiply x minus 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 3. So if you FOIL the first two, first outer inner last, x squared minus x minus 2x negative 2 times negative 1 is plus 2. Combine your like terms, negative 1x and negative 2x, to get negative 3x. When you combine those two by FOILing them, you get this trinomial here, x squared minus 3x plus 2. That has to multiply times x plus 3, and we could treat it just like we did a little while ago. Okay? So x, this term, times everything, times x squared is x to the third power, because you add 1 and 2 to add the exponents. X times negative 3x is negative 3, you add the exponents again, x squared. And x times 2 is positive 2x. You also take 3 and multiply it by each of the terms. 3 times x squared is positive 3x squared. 3 times negative 3x, 3 times negative 3 is negative 9x, and 3 times 2 is positive 6. At this step, all you have to do is combine your like terms. Again, there's only one x to the third power. It's here, x to the third. There's 2x squareds, this one and this one. So negative 3 plus 3, they actually wind up canceling each other out. There's 0 x squareds. This one here, x to the first power, is 2x minus 9x. That's negative 7x. Notice we don't have an x squared because it was 0. They canceled out. And then there's one constant term plus 6. Again, I want to skip special products. I don't think it's very useful. Let's take a look at your checkpoint problems. Adding these. Again, this is all stuff we did on the homework. It's just one more chance for you to practice right here. Go ahead and take, if you hadn't done this yet, go ahead and take 1 minute to do these. Let's do, you could do one and 2 in the next minute, and then we'll go over both of those. Again, went a little bit better than a minute right there. Combine your like terms in this case is what you wind up doing. Negative 3x squared plus x squared. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2x squared. There's 1x to the first power. This one here, 3x, or two of them, excuse me, 3x and negative 9x. So it's like 3 minus 9, which is negative 6x. And then negative 7 plus 5. Negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. So when you combine those, this is what you get. On the second one, number 2, you're subtracting them. So what it winds up doing is it changes all of your signs in your second one. If you need to rewrite all of these by changing all of the signs to make it addition, that's okay. This is another way to do it. Makes it negative 2x to the third, positive 6x, and negative 3. Then all that is putting all of these together, like combining your like terms again. But you don't have to worry about minus a negative if that's bothering you. So there's 2x to the third's power here, at 6x to the third, and negative 2x to the third. So 6 minus 2 is 4x to the third. There's this one, x to the first, and 6x to the first. So that's 6 plus 1 is 7x. And then there's 1 and negative 3. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Again, just another way to do it might help you out. And then 4 and 5 tell you to multiply those two. Again, 4 is more one of those special situation ones, but we'll look at that one as if without the special situation, it'll be fine. So let's take 1 minute and just do number 3 right now. Remember, FOIL the first two, and then multiply it times x plus 7. Again, as you're doing these problems, you notice how easy the arithmetic is in them. You don't even pick up your calculators for these, but you also notice as you're doing them how many opportunities there is to make a mistake, how many opportunities there are to make a mistake. So just be careful as you're doing them, and again, try to be as neat as you can. FOIL the first two. You can FOIL the second two. You can FOIL the first and the third. It doesn't matter, but just to keep it consistent, FOIL the first two and make it easy. FOIL, FOIL, the first two. X times x is x squared. Oh, your outer ones, x times 1 is positive x. Your inner ones, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. L, your last ones, negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. You have to combine your like terms, x and negative 3x, to get negative 2x. So we have x squared minus 2x minus 3. And again, treat that as if it's inside of a set of parentheses to multiply it times x plus 7. Then multiply x times each of the terms. X times x squared is x to the third. X times negative 2x is negative 2x squared. You add the exponents. And x times negative 3 is negative 3x. Also, multiply the other terms. 7 times all of the three terms in the trinomial. 7 times x squared is positive 7x squared. 7 times negative 2x is negative 14x. And 7 times negative 3 is negative 21. One last thing you got to do is combine your like terms. Biggest degree here is x to the third power. So that goes first. X to the third, there's only one. That'll be typical when you're doing these. There'll always be that first one, won't have another one to combine with. Then you have negative 2x squared and positive 7x squared. 7 minus 2, since they're opposite signs, is positive 5x squared. X to the first power is next, negative 3x and negative 14x. Those are the same sign. Both of them are negative, so add them. 14 and 3 is negative 17x. Keep the common sign. And then there's one constant that doesn't have a variable, negative 21 to go with it. X cubed plus 5x squared minus 17x minus 21. For number 4, again, there's a way to make this quicker, but I think the explanation in it and the learning that goes in with this makes it harder than it's worth. So when we see problems like this, we'll just do what we know. We know this says 2w minus 3, and we know that it's squared. Anytime you're squaring something like this, it doesn't mean 2 squared, w squared, negative 3 squared. It means 2w minus 3 times itself, 2w minus 3. So take that and FOIL it out. And again, FOIL just means first, outer, inner, last. Just make sure you don't forget to multiply anything. 2w times 2w is 4w squared. You add them. 2w times negative 3 is negative 6w. Negative 3 times 2w is negative 6w. And negative 3 times negative 3, again, a negative times a negative is a positive 9. Combine your like terms, negative 6w and negative 6w, to get negative 12w. 4w squared minus 12w plus 9. Do it that way, and this is all you need to do.